Do you agree with the positions taken based on the losses made?
Well, yes, I do. I think in most decent, civilized systems, the president or the governor himself and the board, ahead of this annual report becoming public, would have resigned on their own. But we don't have that kind of system that is designed to ensure competence and integrity, so people can do what they want and get away with it. Because at the end of the day, if you run an organization that has made losses up to that tune, 60 billion, I mean, we're not talking about you made a loss of 1 million Ghana cedis, so we're talking about 60 billion. We're not even just saying that. We're talking about the most strategic financial institution in the country, the central bank, which gives confidence to all financial issues of the nation, has gone bankrupt because they made these astonishing losses. And so you want to, if you don't agree with something like this, the natural question you ask yourself is, what is the use of management? The use of management is to steer affairs of a system, of an organization, of an entity. So you steer the affairs to a positive result. And so if you achieve this level of negative results, then there is no management technically. And nobody needed to prompt anyone to resign or a demonstration to urge the governor or the president to fire the governor. I think the board and the governor should on their own resign just to pave way for the semblance of new ideas and credibility. Because once you remain there, people are still skeptical about whether this same team can achieve progress. And you add the cocktail of reckless spending, and you realize that this is something even more serious, that they don't understand where they are in the point of history or in the life of the Ghanaian. They are spending on frivolous things like a $250 million new office complex at a time when your government is looking for a loan of only 200 or only 300. The last loan we got from the IMF was how much? 300 million, isn't it? So Bank of Ghana alone could have given the nation close to that amount. We didn't have to wait 1 year if there was a proper manager of the Bank of Ghana. We didn't have to wait 1 year to go through this tortuous IMF process to get 3 million. So you look at all the cocktail of reckless expenditure and even the way the Bank of Ghana is operating now. So now I would tell you, since COVID hit, right, a lot of the top managers of Bank of Ghana were not going to work. Up until early this year, they were still not going to work. Everything Zoom. You send an application for a license, it will take you forever. You send a document to an office, you go back there, and they don't know where the document is. A secretary will receive it because the boss doesn't come to work anymore because they have these COVID protocols where everything was remote and working from home, and therefore nobody was coming to work again. So you take documents there, the secretary takes it, he puts it somewhere, you go back 3 months later, they can't even trace it. You have to go back all over again. They engage all this reckless hiring, massive political party people being hired and posted to the Bank of Ghana. So that is what you get. So now this is not an accident. This is something that you get what you plant. It is what they have done, and it is the result of what the incompetent manner in which they have run the organization. They are not serious, to be honest with you. They are not serious.
those are the Bank of Ghana are not serious.
And the managers of the economy are not serious. Because you look, Senna, this is this is at the epic center of the economy, right? You know that you are saying that globally the world economy is under distress. Therefore, all governments are working extra hard to ensure that they make the economy better. That's what every government is doing. In doing so, they've put out their best foot forward. They have cut down on expenditure. They have new policies that are turning around situations. What we have here are a bunch of managers who are not serious or don't know what they're doing or don't agree with their government, because the government is one hand saying that times are hard. Okay, so you if you have money, you have a lot of money and times are hard, the most natural option for you is to manage the little that you have well. That is not economics. That is common sense. So if you had $250 million that you need to spend over a period of time, whilst you have urgent things in the economy to take care of, there is your immediate issue, which is the lives of millions, over 32 or 36 million Ghanaians. Their whole economic outlook is in the blink. So if you had money to spend, you have one that will immediately solve the problems of the ordinary Ghanaian, for which reason the Bank of Ghana exists. Then you have a project like earthquake will come. We don't know when. Our office has cracks. You have these two options. The commonsensical thing is that you choose the one with the best opportunity cost, isn't it? That the economy is the most important thing. So therefore, if you have $250 million and you also had an expenditure where you don't know what its effect will be, one would have thought that you would have invested that money in the most pressing need. They chose to invest in an office that they think will be earthquake prone. I have never seen earthquake stable. Listen, I don't know. Are they building wooden houses? Are they building a wooden structure like Japan to withstand earthquake? This is hard concrete. No matter how, when we say that a building is earthquake resistant, it does not mean that earthquake cannot bring it down. It will just mean that probably when earthquake is happening, it will give a few people the opportunity to escape before the building eventually collapses. What is this nonsense we're dealing with in this country? It's just remarkable stupidity. Remarkable stupidity, because these people don't seem to understand or care about why they are in office. While the ordinary Ghanaian is suffering in the market, suffering on the farm, suffering with their investment, all of these sacrifices these people, the nation is making, the government don't seem to realize it. And then they will come to points like, oh, even the IMF says we are not insolvent because we have policy solvency. Like ridiculous things like that they're saying to the people of Ghana. What is that? The Bank of Ghana, they say ideas are free, right? You can pick it from the tree. That is basically what IMF was trying to tell them. It's diplomatic language. We know you are broke. You are completely shattered. But at least we have people here with degrees, doctor this, doctor that. So maybe they still have ideas. That is basically what the IMF was saying. And they took that to mean that, oh, IMF said we are not broke. We still have policy options. So I think that these guys should have gone long time ago. They should have tried and left before even this audit report became public. But this is Ghana. And like I always tell you, this is not a government that feels like when you resign, it is because you try to protect the integrity of government. If they see resignation as punishment and they're too arrogant to succumb to that, so they will never listen to anyone. They will never.
They would not listen, even with the minority breathing down your neck. You think they won't budge?
Look, Sana, look at the history of this president and his government. They don't listen because they feel like they know it all. But when you look at their track record, they have become the most useless government ever. So they always say that the opposition can have their say, and in this case, the minority will have their say. The government will have its way. They will do what they want to do because that is what they understand. When they were going to build Jubilee House, they said that the Osu Castle was on the biggest fault of earthquake zone. Okay, that's what they said. And when we asked them how much was it going to cost for them to build the Jubilee House, you remember the former chief of staff. They don't know. They are empowered to do it, and we should trust that they will take the best decision. When they asked the head of finance at Bank of Ghana, what did they say? What did he say? He doesn't know. He doesn't know it offhand. It's not important to him. He does not know that for a bank that has made 60 billion cedis losses, that is engaged in this prestigious project, he does not know how much it costs. He doesn't know it offhand. It's not one of the important things he has to keep in his memory. He doesn't know. What is the reason for them to build a new office? Because the other one is on an earthquake zone. The same earthquake zone that they use to explain the building of a new Jubilee House. Is the castle gone? It's not gone. It's still sitting there. Now they are saying, oh, let's even convert it into a tourist attraction. Have they forgotten that it's still in an earthquake zone? That if the president and his management are not safe to be in that place, then you can't ask Ghanaians to be touring and foreigners to be touring that place because it's an earthquake zone. So, like I told you the last time, it is the theory of justification. When people make bad choices or are inconsistent with their attitude, they will always justify it in order to remain consistent and have some semblance of credibility in the eyes of the public. The earthquake zone, the echo, whatever, it's all a justification theory that they are throwing in the eyes of Ghanaians. So for me, I don't think this government will take any decision. I think all the police are doing is, it is an old tactic. I've worked in this field for many years. It's an old tactic that if you create conflict between the demonstrators and the police and the security services at the last minute, and there's a semblance that there's going to be chaos, a lot of people will not come to attend the demonstration. So all these disagreements and all of that is just intended to create some semblance of confusion in the hope that it will scare a lot of people from attending the demonstration, because the last one, you saw what happened. So if they can then say, well, we haven't agreed on the route, not the destination. So there's also something that we need to explain. There is a difference between the routes that they are going to use and the destination. So if the minority wants, they shouldn't even take any route. They should just all converge at the Bank of Ghana place. Finish. All this nonsense will stop. Okay? They should not even roam the streets. They should just go to the Bank of, since they are worried about the route that they're going to use. They are not worried about the destination. So then go to the destination. Period. I feel like it is just a tactic to create doubt and the possibility of a security problem just so that a lot of people will not show up. That's what I think. Because I think maybe going forward in future, when the minority or any organization goes into a meeting to agree on things, In order to forestall all this kind of stuff, I think it would be good to come out, face the media outside together, have a joint press conference, and by then you will see where they stand. You will not go home and only to realize that some other statement has been issued contrary to what was agreed. When you walk out of the meeting, the two of you, if the intents are clear, issue a joint statement and say the minority and the police have had a marathon meeting. At the end of the day, we have agreed that this is the route. If there's any misunderstanding, you hear it there and then. But like I said, this is just an old tactic that is being used in a new book.
But do you agree with, because you have a deeper knowledge in security, the suggestion always is that there's a risk of public order being affected, public safety, that the places you're going to could create disorder. Do you agree with that? Because they said they did a security assessment. You know the places in question. What do you say?
Well, listen, every gathering, and this is very important, every gathering poses a possible security problem. Okay? So even when citizens go to the stadium to go and watch football, that mass gathering will always have some element of a security risk. So if one says that he has done a security assessment and that there is a risk of the route, I will not say, well, because I don't know what has gone into the assessment, but I can almost speculate that what has gone into the assessment is political. Okay, there might be a security risk, but that risk is not probably on the route or against the people who might be affected by the marching. That risk could be political. So let's understand what kind of risk they're talking about. Is it traffic? Is it that they see that the timing of this demonstration and where they're going to pass and the messages that it was sent around, and the fact that around this time of the situation in the sub-region, some of these demonstrations could spiral out of control. I want to understand what went into the assessment, because assessment always have criteria. You don't just wake up and say, we have done an assessment. At the time of revealing that you've done an assessment, you would have said that 200,000 people, we estimate that there will be about 200,000 people participating in this demonstration. We estimate that the route that they are about to use at any given point in time have about almost another 200,000 people on that route. Therefore, we calculate that there will be about 400,000 people in this area, and it will cause traffic, and it might, if there's any commotion or whatever, there will be stampede. Or there's nothing in this that says that there's an analysis. That's why I'm thinking that this is probably just a political risk analysis, that the assessment that they have done to look at the timing and realizing that people are a lot more determined this time, and for that reason, this demonstration should be curtailed. And it is also possible that they are setting the tone for something a lot more untoward. And so they're scaring people not to show up. That's just what I think. And we always allow the security forces to get away with it, because they will come out and say, we've done a security assessment. Listen, my brother, security assessment is not like taking a tablet of water and just swallowing it, a tablet with water and just swallowing it in your stomach. It has to come with indicators. What has been the history of demonstration on this route? Has there ever been a situation where people have used this route? And what was the consequences of it? The route that they are talking about has been used several times. There hasn't been one single instance where the route itself created a security problem. or the demonstrators created a security problem. So even if there was, what must have contributed to that security problem, because not every security situation is the same. So even if it happened 20 years ago and it hasn't happened in recent times, you can't use 20 years ago demonstration by a different group of people to make an assessment that you are sure that this is going to be a security. This is all bogus analysis. And I just have concluded in my mind, it has nothing to do with a proper security threat to the route. It has more to do with politics and the fact that people just are not comfortable with citizens demonstrating, especially when it is being handled by your opponent. It's just what I think is going on. They're just doing a hatchet job for the system. That's it.
For what is worth, at least you said, because they tried taking on getting the finance minister to resign, failed, censure motion failed, and so the finance minister is in office. There are those who suggest they will face the same resistance in the governor of the Bank of Ghana, whose removal is even much more difficult than it will take the finance minister. For what is worth, should they at least just go on the demonstration and still continue to put out the pressure?
Yes, demonstration is one of the key tools that is available to citizens to demonstrate, to make their point known to their fellow citizens and to the government about their displeasure on a policy, on the performance, or whatever. So it is one of the fundamental tools in any civilized democratic system that you can demonstrate because it is tied to freedom of speech and of movement. So everywhere in the world, the ability to demonstrate, move freely, express your opinion about what happens in your society is fundamental to democracy. So for what it's worth, it is important that the demonstrators pursue that path to satisfy themselves that they have at least exercised their right and they've done their part. What I would urge the minority is that, you see, from my experience, demonstrations are always impactful when it's properly organized, when it is big in numbers. When the police show up and they realize that there is massive numbers, there's a way they tend to check themselves. Okay? So if you're going to go on a demonstration, my advice is take your time and plan it well. Plan it well. If there are people, and I hear this argument, it's always been there, whether it's NDC or NPP, oh, they bus people. They bus people from the region. So what? If they can get people from space who are willing to demonstrate, bus them and bring them to Earth to come and demonstrate. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. So I always think that there is strength in numbers. And if you're going to go on a demonstration as the largest opposition party in Ghana, and you show up with 500 or 200 or 1,000 people, well, that's something else. So I think if they really want to have impact, they should show that impact with numbers, not just the message. The message, a lot of Ghanaians understand. What they are asking for is pressure. Pressure to make sure that the governor leaves office. That can only be demonstrated by numbers. And so if they are going to do this, they should organize it properly and make sure that the numbers are significant. That sends a big signal to the system that there are many, many, many people who have joined this demonstration because they agree with it, and that it is not necessarily our opponents that are just trying to make political capital out of this. This is a serious matter. To remove the governor of a central bank and the board is almost equivalent to removing the president from office, because all the president's plans and his programs and everything has to occur within a theater of a stable financial system. So if you don't have that, if you're going to remove the governor, this is serious business and must be planned seriously. I don't know the level of planning that has gone into this. I heard the member of parliament you spoke to yesterday in the area, and he said that a lot of his supporters were willing to participate. I think a lot more of the MPs in Accra should all urge their citizens to participate, because the protection of that demonstration will rely heavily on the numbers that show up.
Well, before I let you go, two things. First, who do you think will emerge from the Super Delegates Congress of the New Patriotic Party? The projections that Dr. Bawumia will win.
Well, first of all, you have to understand this party and its antecedent. Every time a president is exiting office, he has always tried to have someone that would take over, someone that he personally likes, to ensure that there will be continuity of his legacy. I'll come back to the legacy in a few minutes if you have time. But in the last time when Kufuor was trying to leave office, former President Kufuor, was trying to leave office, it was obvious that his choice was Alan Chermatin. It was obvious that a lot of the aspirants at some point ganged up against Alan because they thought that he was being forced on the party. So Nanado emerged because he was the strongest opponent at the time. And when a lot of the people eventually found out that they were better aligning themselves and supporting one candidate than going all together. So what do I think? I think Bawumia is having the same difficulty. He's seen more like the establishment candidate. He's seen more like the continuation of the president's policy and legacy, which is not so impressive. And so the MPP is panicking. It's panicking that a Bawumia candidate will be a legacy, will have to defend all these issues that we have talked about, all these negative legacies that they are trying to run away from. So some believe that if they select Bawumia, they're going to have to deal with this. Others also believe that, especially the people who support the president and those who are in government, are being whipped in line by the system. It appears that they are under a lot of pressure. If you're an MP and you don't support our candidate, we'll have someone to contest you. If you're an MP and you want finance minister to go, we are going to get somebody in your constituency to support you, and we are going to finance that person. So there's some sort of whipping in line going on, also from the government, because they realize that, I think the president realized that looking at his performance, if he doesn't get another 4 years to try to improve on things, he's probably going to go down as one of the worst presidents in our history. So what the president is doing is for himself. It's just to protect his own legacy that is not so impressive. And so I think they will try and do everything to make sure that Bawumia is elected, but I think we could also be surprised. Based on this party's history, there could be surprises, in my opinion. And a lot of the dynamics of how they will align or join forces will depend on the outcome of the superdelegates results. So, for example, if Kennedy Japan gets more votes than Alan, then Alan will have to rethink his strategy, whether to align with the one that has the highest, or to still slug it out and maybe perhaps change his campaign strategy going forward. But I think, and I suspect, that whoever outside the establishment candidate, whoever gets the highest vote, might try to unite the rest behind him in order to defeat the candidate that the president so much wants to continue with his legacy. So that's what I think. I think that this president and his government have failed miserably. All the promises that they've made, they have not been, most of it, they have not been able to achieve it. They start one project, they will start one promise, it is not working, they move to another. If you have time, I can go through that for you to see why the president still needs Bawumia to continue. But then the fallacy of it is the fact that you were given 4 years. All these things you promised, you were going to achieve it in 4 years.
Ghana's gold.
You failed to do that.
Radio gold.
The people of Ghana said, well, give him another 4 years. Let him try to finish his project. You still have been unable to do that. In fact, it's gotten worse. And then you say, oh, let's break the 8. Give me another 4 years. For me, I think Ghanaians, they say that every country deserves the president they elect. So it's up to Ghanaians. If they decide to go and vote for them again, we are all in this mess together. I don't think anybody needs to impress upon anybody to vote in a certain way. The signs are there for everybody. We are all suffering. It's not just NDC supporters. In fact, NDC supporters are doing better. If you meet them and you speak to them, they know their government is not in power. So they're doing what they want to do to survive. Their own people are suffering because this has become some sort of a state capture, and only a few people are enjoying while the rest are tagging along.
Very interesting on the matter of NDC supporters doing better. I have a friend who keeps saying that. Having said that, the suggestion is that the person with the heaviest pocket, of course, will emerge winner of the Super Delegates Congress. You're talking about over 900 people, not under 1,000, that anybody who can cough up the highest amount should be able to sail through easily. The projections for 70%, up to 70% for even Dr. Bawumia.
Sana, from my experience,
Ghana's gold.
Money is
Gold.
exciting about politics because it projects some sense of seriousness of the candidates in Africa, in Ghana. From my experience, money has this unique ability to project seriousness of a candidate, resourcefulness, and sometimes misguided competence. Okay, so money actually do play a part when it makes politics a lot more sexier. However, this is a super delegate Congress, okay, where the people who are supposed to vote, in my opinion, are a little bit more, not to disrespect the other delegates that are coming to vote, but the MPP by their own architecture suggests that these are the elite people who should be the ones to first sieve the list. So one will expect that they are a lot more sophisticated than this. And therefore, and they have also seen the posturing of the presidency and the people who support the president, that if you don't seem to align with the vice president, if you're a minister, your position is under threat. If you're an MP, the story is the same. They might finance somebody against you. So there are people who might collect the money and not vote their way. There are people who might collect the money and vote in a particular way because they think that one of the candidates has a lot more money and going forward will be more resourceful in supporting their candidature. And it appears to me that that candidate appears to be the vice president. But I think the NDC must pray. They must pray that Dr. Bawumia becomes the candidate because he's going to be much easier to beat than any of the candidates. So I think the president is thinking about himself. The system is thinking about their legacy. It appears that they think time will improve their competence. And therefore, if they go 4 more years, they will be able to do, you remember what they said, 2000? 4 more years to do more. And you remember what Bawumia said against the former president? He wants to come again to do more damage. They have gotten 4 more years to do more damage. If you look at where we were post 2020 and where we are now, we are in a worse situation. And then he has the temerity to ask for 4 more years. Senator, this is a government led by the vice president because he was the most vocal. They promised that every district will have a dam because dams are important for agriculture purposes. Every district. They said every district will be given $1 million. They said every district will have 1 factory. And based on these combined promises, they said that they were going to be on the path to steer the nation towards industrialization. If the dams are working and there's money in the district and there's factory in the district, they'll be processing, we are going to be industrialized. Corruption. They said the NDC was the most corrupt government in history. What do we have now? They are the most, we brought them into office. They are the most corrupt government in Africa. No doubt about it. When people say it, then they go and arrest them for fake news. Let them come and arrest me for fake news. And let's see whether this is not a fact that we are all saying. Look, Sana, you remember Bawumia, who said that if the fundamentals are weak, the exchange rate will expose you. At the time he made that statement, the exchange rate was 3.6 cedis to $1. We have run to 14 point something cedis to $1. Now we are pegged at 11.3 cedis to $1. And they still said the former government was incompetent and they were more competent. They said NDC was borrowing too much, okay, because they did not know how to manage the economy and they did not even have a sense of purpose for all the money they were borrowing. What do we have now? They have borrowed the highest since Ghana became independent in 1967. All the loans all the government took from that time till the day we elected them, they have borrowed more than all of them put together. They said borrowing domestically will collapse the economy, will weaken the local economy. They have borrowed more than any government in history locally. What did they say? The educational system we had at that time was not the best. They were going to transform it. What do we have? We have an educational system, especially the senior high school, that is like the toilet system in the village, where one person goes in, you see a line in a queue. Another one is waiting for the other one to finish so he can go in. That is the educational system they gave us. Aside all the lofty promises they gave the nation. They said that this nation is rich, but its people are poor because of mismanagement. They were going to turn it around. What do we have? We now have Ghanaians poorest. If you look at the statistics, we are poorer than ever in history. They said they were the better managers of the economy. Okay? It ended up bankrupting not just the nation that cannot pay its debt. Our debt to GDP ratio was a big deal for them. It has quadrupled under their watch. They said inflation was too high under the NDC, and now it is ballooned out of control. They said they were going to introduce a new, you had the vice president at the time. Look, all these road construction systems are not good. They were going to introduce what they called concrete roads. After 8 years, we don't have one single concrete road to their name. They said, they were so good that by the time they leave office, Ghana was going to go beyond aid, that they were no longer interested in aid. You saw the president when he met the U.S. Secretary of State, literally begging before the camera, begging for aid. That is what he has ended up in. They are begging for aid with their legs, their head, their stomach, and everything. They said going to the IMF was the worst thing, and that only incompetent people would take the economy in the whole country to IMF, and that if you went to the IMF, you're going to be dealt with by this low-level, unintelligent IMF staff who will dictate to you what you must do. They ended up there. And even they had a hard time getting a deal. They said that, the banking sector that they came to me was the worst. That NDC was useless. The previous governments that have been in power were useless. So what did they do? They needed to clean it up. They cleaned it up. You saw the report in Parliament. For the first time in history, almost every commercial bank in Ghana have recorded losses. And when you ask them, they say it's because of these haircuts and the debt exchange that the government has undertaken. Even with the worst cleanup, even with the state of the banking that they said was the worst, the banks were not recording losses like this. You heard the president. He will make Accra the most cleanest city in Africa. As for whether filth has engulfed the city, we are all witnesses to it. They said neighborhoods like Nima, you heard the president, Nima will become skyscrapers, that the people of Nima also deserve to live in such an environment that was not reserved only for the rich. Go to Nima. Tell me one single skyscraper you can see there. That is not all. The Zongos have been left behind. NDC people get their votes from the Zongos and they do nothing for them. So they are going to set up this Zongo Development Fund that will transform all the Zongos across the nation. Tell me one, if not those party supporters who've been given money to line up their pockets, the Zongos are worse off as we speak today. The president promised he, more than anybody, was going to be the one to protect the public purse. Like I told you, we now have on our hands the most corrupt government in Africa.
Senior, like you said...
Look at what happened to Saglani. Is that protection of the public purse? So, Senator, I can go on and on. I don't think we have time.
I realize.
Yeah. So, for me, I think the president can do what he wants to do. But at the end of the day, his candidate will be the easiest to beat as far as the 2024 elections is concerned. So that's what I think, really.
Well, thank